Definition of a leasing contract. A leasing contract, also known as a lease agreement, is a legal document that outlines the terms and conditions of an arrangement in which one party, the lessor, agrees to lease property or equipment to another party, the lessee, in exchange for periodic payments. The lease agreement typically includes details such as the duration of the lease, the rental amount, payment schedule, terms for renewal or termination of the lease, and any specific conditions or restrictions related to the use of the leased property or equipment. The purpose of a leasing contract is to establish a clear and binding agreement between the lessor and lessee, and to protect the interests of both parties in the leasing transaction. Parties of a leasing contract. The parties involved in a leasing contract are the lessor and the lessee. The lessor is the owner of the property or equipment being leased, and the lessee is the individual or business entity that is renting the property or equipment. The lessor is responsible for maintaining the property or equipment in good condition and ensuring that it is suitable for the intended use by the lessee. The lessor also has the right to collect rent payments and enforce the terms of the lease agreement. C, on the other hand, has the right to use the property or equipment in accordance with the terms of the lease agreement. The lessee is responsible for paying the rent on time and maintaining the property or equipment in good condition, subject to any specific provisions outlined in the lease agreement. Both parties are bound by the terms and conditions of the leasing contract, which is a legally binding document that governs the rights and obligations of each party throughout the duration of the lease agreement. Rights and duties of a lessor. The lessor, or the owner of the property or equipment being leased, has certain rights and duties under a leasing contract. Some of the key rights and duties of a lessor are: Rights of a lessor. 1. The right to collect rent payments from the lessee in a timely manner. 2. The right to receive the property or equipment back at the end of the lease term in good condition, subject to normal wear and tear. 3. The right to take legal action against the lessee for any breach of the lease agreement. Duties of a lessor. 1. The duty to maintain the property or equipment in good condition and ensure that it is suitable for the intended use by the lessee. 2. The duty to disclose any known defects or issues with the property or equipment to the lessee before the lease agreement is signed. 3. The duty to provide the lessee with quiet enjoyment of the property or equipment during the lease term and not interfere with the lessee's use of the property or equipment. Additionally, depending on the specifics of the leasing contract, the lessor may have other duties such as providing insurance coverage for the property or equipment, paying property taxes and other expenses related to the property or equipment, or making repairs as needed. Rights and duties of a lessee. The lessee, or the individual or business entity that is renting the property or equipment under a leasing contract, has certain rights and duties as well. Some of the key rights and duties of a lessee are: Rights of a lessee. 1. The right to use the property or equipment in accordance with the terms of the lease agreement. 2. The right to expect that the lessor will maintain the property or equipment in good condition and ensure that it is suitable for the intended use by the lessee. 3. The right to renew or terminate the lease agreement as specified in the lease contract. Duties of a lessee. 1. The duty to pay rent on time and in accordance with the terms of the lease agreement. 2. The duty to maintain the property or equipment in good condition, subject to normal wear and tear. 3. The duty to comply with any specific provisions outlined in the lease agreement regarding the use of the property or equipment, such as restrictions on alterations or modifications. 4. The duty to return the property or equipment to the lessor in good condition at the end of the lease term. Additionally, depending on the specifics of the leasing contract, the lessee may have other duties such as obtaining insurance coverage for the property or equipment, paying for utilities or other expenses related to the property or equipment, or notifying the lessor of any necessary repairs or maintenance issues. Ambiguous terms and conditions in leasing contracts. Ambiguous terms and conditions in leasing contracts can cause confusion and disputes between the lessor and lessee. To avoid this, it is important for both parties to understand the terms and conditions of the leasing contract before signing. Some common ambiguous terms and conditions in leasing contracts include: 1. Reasonable wear and tear. This term can be vague and open to interpretation. It is important to define what constitutes reasonable wear and tear to avoid disputes at the end of the lease term. 2. Maintenance and repair responsibilities. Leasing contracts may not specify who is responsible for maintenance and repairs. It is important to clarify who is responsible for routine maintenance and repairs and who is responsible for major repairs. 3. Residual value. The residual value is the value of the leased asset at the end of the lease term. The calculation of the residual value can be complicated, and it is important to define the method of calculation in the leasing contract. 4. Use restrictions. Leasing contracts may contain use restrictions, such as mileage limits or restrictions on the use of the leased asset. It is important to define these restrictions clearly to avoid misunderstandings. 5. Early termination. Leasing contracts may include early termination clauses, but these clauses can be ambiguous. It is important to define the circumstances under which early termination is allowed and the fees and penalties associated with early termination. To avoid ambiguous terms and conditions in leasing contracts, both parties should carefully review the contract before signing and seek legal advice if necessary. Lessees should ask for clarification on any terms or conditions that are not clear, and lessors should be willing to provide this information to ensure that the leasing contract is fair and understood by both parties.